When an INFJ encounters a narcissist, the dynamic is complex because the INFJ is both highly intuitive and deeply empathetic, while the narcissist thrives on control, admiration, and manipulation. At first, the INFJ's natural inclination to understand people at a deeper level draws them in. They often see beyond the narcissist's surface charm or confidence, sensing the wounds and emptiness that lie beneath. This makes them compassionate toward the narcissist, often trying to heal or help them. The INFJ's ability to tune into hidden motives and unspoken emotions allows them to see the insecurity that drives the narcissist's arrogance, which is something most people overlook. If you're an INFJ, ensure to check out our INFJ Mastery Toolkit. The link is in the description of this video. However, this initial compassion becomes a double-edged sword. The narcissist recognizes the INFJ's empathy and begins to exploit it. They feed on the INFJ's desire to bring harmony and connection, using guilt, gaslighting, and manipulation to gain control. For a while, the INFJ may tolerate this because they believe in the possibility of redemption and hope their patience can help the narcissist grow. But the longer this goes on, the more the INFJ begins to sense the imbalance in the relationship. They start noticing the patterns of selfishness, the constant need for validation, and the lack of genuine concern for others. Because INFJs cannot ignore the truth once it becomes clear, they begin to detach emotionally even while outwardly appearing calm and accommodating. One of the ways INFJs deal with narcissists is through silence and observation. Unlike more reactive personalities, they rarely confront directly at first. Instead, they quietly analyze the situation, piecing together the narcissist's behaviors until the whole pattern is undeniable. Their intuition is their greatest weapon here, as they can anticipate the narcissist's next moves and protect themselves emotionally from being blindsided. When they finally decide to act, their withdrawal is deliberate and decisive. They do not waste energy on dramatic confrontations, because they know the narcissist will twist words and turn the blame back on them. Instead, they cut off supply by disengaging, withdrawing attention, and refusing to feed the narcissist's ego. The narcissist often underestimates the INFJ, mistaking their gentleness for weakness. But INFJs are far from weak. Their strength lies in their quiet resolve and their ability to burn bridges without hesitation when their emotional well-being is at stake. Once an INFJ realizes the narcissist is incapable of real change or refuses to take responsibility, their compassion turns cold. They stop offering explanations, stop defending themselves, and stop giving energy to a one-sided relationship. This sudden shift is shocking to narcissists, who are used to having power over others. The INFJ's calm but firm detachment is something they cannot manipulate, and that is when the narcissist loses control. INFJs also deal with narcissists by creating strong internal boundaries. They may not always express these boundaries outwardly, but they enforce them silently by controlling what they share, how much emotional energy they give, and how deeply they allow the narcissist into their inner world. Because they value authenticity, they can see through the false image narcissists project, which weakens the narcissist's influence over them. Over time, the INFJ learns to conserve their energy for those who reciprocate love and respect, leaving the narcissist starve for the attention they once took for granted. What allows INFJs to come out ahead in dealings with narcissists is their ability to combine empathy with discernment. Their compassion may allow them to understand why narcissists behave the way they do, but their intuition ensures they are not blind to the harm being caused. And when the time comes, they have the courage to walk away without looking back, preserving their peace and refusing to remain in a cycle of emotional exploitation. Even after the INFJ has cut ties with a narcissist, the quiet aftermath is one of the most powerful parts of the process. When the narcissist is left without the INFJ's attention, validation, and steady presence, they begin to feel the void more deeply than they expect. Narcissists thrive on extracting energy from people who empathize with them, and the INFJ is one of the rare types who can provide a depth of emotional connection that most others cannot. Once that supply is gone, the narcissist often scrambles to regain control, attempting to lure the INFJ back with promises, charm, or even pity. But what makes the INFJ different from others who fall into the narcissist cycle is that once they reach clarity, they cannot be convinced to return to the same destructive dynamic. The INFJ's detachment is not born from coldness, but from a profound understanding of their own worth and the futility of giving endlessly to someone who only takes. Their silence speaks volumes, and their refusal to engage in the narcissist's games creates a psychological barrier that no manipulation can penetrate. The narcissist, who once thrived on exploiting their empathy, is now faced with a version of the INFJ that is untouchable, calm, self-possessed, and unwilling to entertain toxicity. For the INFJ, dealing with a narcissist becomes a lesson in balancing compassion with self-preservation. They learn that kindness does not mean self-sacrifice, and that protecting their energy is an act of strength rather than cruelty. Instead of fighting fire with fire, they remove the oxygen altogether, leaving the narcissist powerless. This quiet but firm withdrawal allows them to step out of the narcissist's shadow and reclaim their peace. Over time, INFJs use the experience to refine their intuition even more. They become quicker at spotting red flags, sharper at discerning manipulative behavior, and stronger at upholding boundaries. What once was a painful entanglement turns into wisdom that guides them in future relationships. They realize that their empathy is a gift, but that it must be guarded and given only to those who can honor it. The narcissist, on the other hand, rarely understands what has happened. They are bewildered by the INFJ's ability to vanish emotionally and sometimes physically without dramatic confrontation. Narcissists are used to drawing people back into the cycle through guilt or provocation, but INFJs break this cycle in a way that leaves no room for return. The finality of an INFJ's decision is something few narcissists can ever prepare for, and it often leaves them unsettled, frustrated, and desperate. The true victory for the INFJ lies in their ability to emerge not only intact but stronger than before. They don't just survive the narcissist's influence, they transform because of it. The lessons they take forward allow them to become even more discerning guides, helpers, and protectors in the lives of others. They recognize that their light is too valuable to be wasted on someone who only seeks to consume it, and in that realization, they step into a more empowered version of themselves, leaving the narcissist behind with nothing but the echo of what they lost. Narcissists do, in fact, fear the kind of detachment that INFJs embody, though they would never admit it openly. For someone who thrives on control, validation, and emotional domination, the INFJ's withdrawal represents their worst nightmare. Unlike people who engage with a narcissist in endless arguments or attempts to fix them, INFJs give them nothing. No fuel, no reaction, no attention. This silence and absence of energy is deeply unsettling for the narcissist because it strips away their power. What they depended on suddenly vanishes, and the emptiness they've always tried to cover up with manipulation and ego is left exposed. The narcissist may attempt to provoke the INFJ with guilt trips, false promises, or even anger, but the INFJ's insight into their behavior makes these tactics ineffective. The INFJ doesn't just see through the manipulation, they feel the hollowness behind it. They know it's not genuine, and because of that, the narcissist loses the ability to penetrate their defenses. While other personalities may be caught in cycles of idealization and devaluation, the INFJ's ability to observe patterns and connect the dots gives them clarity. Once clarity arrives, emotional detachment follows naturally, and the narcissist is left disarmed. What makes this even more powerful is that the INFJ doesn't need revenge or dramatic closure. They don't waste time trying to prove to the narcissist that they were wrong or cruel, because they understand that the narcissist will never truly take responsibility. Instead, they quietly reclaim their peace and move forward, a decision that leaves the narcissist both confused and powerless. The narcissist is accustomed to people either submitting or fighting, but the INFJ does neither. They simply disappear emotionally, creating a void the narcissist cannot fill. Over time, this kind of detachment teaches the INFJ a valuable lesson about their own resilience. They realize they can walk away without needing the other person's validation or apology, which is something most narcissists count on to keep others hooked. The narcissist may attempt to re-enter their lives, perhaps with charm or even desperation. But the INFJ, once resolute, cannot be pulled back. Their mind and heart have already processed the truth, and their loyalty, once broken, is gone forever. For the narcissist, this loss stings more than most because the INFJ provided a rare kind of attention, deep, empathic, and intuitive. No superficial admirer or casual follower can replace the depth of connection an INFJ once offered. And so the narcissist, left without it, is forced back into their cycle of seeking validation elsewhere, often more frantically than before. Meanwhile, the INFJ stands firm, wiser, calmer, and stronger, having proven to themselves that their empathy is not a weakness but a source of profound strength when paired with discernment. That spiritual and emotional growth is what ultimately sets the INFJ apart after surviving a narcissist. Once the fog of manipulation clears, the INFJ begins to recognize that the entire ordeal was not just about pain, but also about awakening. They see how the experience has sharpened their intuition, made their boundaries stronger, and deepened their understanding of human nature. What once felt like a destructive entanglement transforms into a kind of training ground where their quiet resilience and inner wisdom were forged in fire. The INFJ doesn't emerge bitter, even though they've been wronged. Instead, they emerge with a deeper sense of self-respect. They realize that their compassion has to be directed in a way that honors their own well-being first. Rather than seeing empathy as a duty to endlessly pour themselves out for others, they begin to treat it as a sacred gift that must be shared only with those who can value and reciprocate it. The narcissist inadvertently teaches them the importance of discernment, of knowing when to give and when to walk away. Spiritually, the INFJ often finds meaning in the chaos they endured. They come to see the narcissist not only as an adversary, but also as a mirror that revealed where their own vulnerabilities lay. The experience highlights their tendency to overextend themselves, their reluctance to enforce boundaries, and their deep desire to save people who refuse to be saved. By confronting these truths, the INFJ steps into a stronger alignment with their higher self, realizing that true compassion never requires self-destruction. On an emotional level, they begin to trust their instincts more fully. Where before they may have second-guessed their perceptions, they now know that the subtle red flags they noticed early on were real. This trust in their intuition becomes a guiding principle in all their relationships, protecting them from similar entanglements in the future. They become more grounded, less swayed by charm, and more attuned to the authenticity, or lack of it, in others. Most importantly, the INFJ transforms the pain into purpose. Many channel the lessons learned into helping others, offering guidance, writing, counseling, or simply being a living example of how quiet strength can outlast manipulation. They take what nearly broke them and turn it into wisdom that uplifts others. This is the ultimate triumph, because not only do they free themselves, but they also become a beacon of insight for anyone still trapped in similar dynamics. And while the narcissist continues their cycle elsewhere, the INFJ walks forward with an unshakable clarity, no longer haunted by the shadows of manipulation. They carry the lesson that empathy must be paired with self-respect, and that silence, withdrawal, and inner strength can be more powerful than any confrontation. In this way, the INFJ doesn't just survive the narcissist, they transcend them, leaving behind the chaos and stepping into a deeper, more peaceful version of themselves. This transformation makes the INFJ almost invisible to the tactics narcissists rely on. Love bombing, charm, or feigned vulnerability no longer penetrate their awareness, because they have seen these games before and can sense the hollowness behind them. Gaslighting, which once might have caused them to second-guess themselves, now falls flat because the INFJ has learned to trust their intuition above the manipulator's narrative. Attempts at control or guilt simply dissolve in the face of their calm detachment. They may respond with silence, with a simple refusal, or by walking away without explanation. And in that calm, unwavering energy, the narcissist finds nothing to exploit. For the INFJ, this doesn't mean they become hardened or lose their ability to care. On the contrary, they become even more compassionate, but their compassion is now wise. They can distinguish between someone who is wounded, yet willing to grow, and someone who is destructive and unwilling to change. They no longer pour their energy into bottomless pits, and this selectivity allows them to nurture healthier, more balanced connections. Their empathy becomes sharper, more discerning, and even more powerful because it is no longer diluted by exploitation. The INFJ also develops a deeper respect for themselves. They no longer tolerate relationships where their needs are dismissed, their feelings invalidated, or their energy drained. This self-respect radiates outward, attracting people who resonate with their authenticity while repelling those who seek only to take. They begin to surround themselves with individuals who value depth, honesty, and mutual growth, and these relationships nourish them in ways that toxic ones never could. Perhaps the most profound change is the INFJ's relationship with peace. They come to prize it more than anything else, peace in their environment, in their interactions, and in their inner world. After enduring the chaos of a narcissist, stillness feels sacred, and they protect it fiercely. This doesn't make them aloof or detached from others. Rather, it makes them deeply intentional about where they invest their time and heart. The INFJ who once felt entangled and drained by a narcissist now stands as someone untouchable, not because they have built walls of bitterness, but because they have cultivated wisdom and strength. They understand that their light is precious, and they refuse to let it be dimmed by those who cannot honor it. The narcissist, in the end, becomes only a stepping stone in the INFJ's journey toward greater clarity, authenticity, and power. This evolution naturally pushes the INFJ into a role they never sought, but often embrace with quiet resolve, that of a guide for others who are still entangled in the webs of manipulation. Having lived through the confusion, the gaslighting, the draining cycles of hope and disappointment, they carry an understanding that can't be learned from books alone. People who are struggling with narcissists often find themselves gravitating toward the INFJ, sensing that here is someone who not only listens, but truly understands the hidden dynamics at play. On a deeper level, this process becomes part of the INFJ's spiritual calling. They begin to see that their journey with narcissists was not merely a random hardship, but a shaping force, preparing them to fulfill their purpose in a more powerful way. Where once they may have questioned why they had to suffer so intensely, they now recognize that it forged them into someone who can hold space for others' healing without being consumed by it. Their scars become symbols of resilience, reminders that they have already faced manipulation and risen above it. If you're an INFJ, ensure to check out our INFJ Mastery Toolkit. The link is in the description of this video.